So the Tokyo Game Show happened, and we got to see a more in-depth look of the Breath of the Wild prequel releasing this November, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Not only did we get gameplay of its beginning, but a whole new trailer. For the most part, this video will be analyzing the trailer, but we will bring up some parts of the gameplay as well, mainly the cutscenes. We get a first look at Impa, who as expected will be one of the playable characters in the game, with several abilities that make you think of the Shika Slate's runes. Kind of good timing since we literally covered this in our last theory. More importantly, it looks like Link does have the slate. We just couldn't see it on his person in the gameplay portion. Impa meets the hero while running away from monsters, and I'm guessing she was at Hyrule Castle doing research on the slate before this. And yeah, while this does explain his ability to use the runes, there's still a contradiction with the runes themselves since they were initially discovered much later. But like we've said multiple times, Age of Calamity is going to have to change up some of the lore here and there, and as long as the changes aren't major events which occur, then I don't see the problem with it. All this really means is that the runes were available to use 100 years ago and were perhaps lost after the Shika Slate got damaged in battle and later restored by Pyrrha. The same thing goes with the Shika Towers popping up. If you follow me on Twitter, you may remember when I pointed this out in the background of Rudania's shot. And while the records show these appearing a century after the Great Calamity, it's not really a big deal. They could have easily appeared, then sunk back into the ground sometime after the Great Calamity. Many of us had theories about the Robot Guardian perhaps being designed by Pyrrha or Robbie, but it looks like Link just randomly finds it when running around in his first battle. It's similar to the fairy that the player finds in the original Hyrule Warriors, so perhaps this little guy will act as Link's voice. It's interesting how the tower pops up after the Egg Guardian is activated. It reminds me of when all the towers rose after the activation of one, so it's possible this guy is somehow linked to the signal of the towers. And in regards to the Shika Slate, either that thing will be passed around from character to character during the story, or we'll have several slates for several people. At this point, it wouldn't really surprise me. There isn't much else of the gameplay worth noting. It's essentially Hyrule Warriors but with a Breath of the Wild skin, as to be expected. So, let's dive right into the trailer. So, in the first shot, it just cuts right to the Akula Citadel burning, and I am freaking out on stream.
Whoa! Akula Citadel! Akula Citadel! Oh!
You know, just a bit, not too much, just a bit of a freak out.
Yes! Akula Citadel!
Just a bit.
Ah!
Out of all the events which happen in the Calamity, if there's one that many of us theorists have wanted to see, it's the last stand of Akula Citadel. This is the place the Hyrulean soldiers retreated to after the king was killed, so this shot is most likely taking place after that huge battle. While we don't see guardians in the background, one is lying in ruins near the foreground. And we know that this one has just recently perished, given the spark effect. So it's not like this guardian was here before the fight started. I really hope this means we'll experience the full battle which took place here. The Shika Tower is also present, but given what we saw in the gameplay portion, it's not that shocking. I do wonder if it broke a part of the stronghold when rising from the ground or not. Then we see Zelda at Hyrule Castle in what appears to be the location where the final champion's ballad memory took place. You can see one of the columns in the background, and it's obvious that she's not taking these events too well. Her father is probably dead at this point, so she could also be mourning for him. Link isn't here though, so my first thought is that this is just before she confronts Ganon, but her dress isn't covered in mud, so it might be before they flee and Link just isn't on the screen at the moment. I do really like this shot with the dark fog slowly consuming the tapestry. It's quite symbolic since we know what events are to come, and later on we get to see each divine beast slowly being consumed by this dark fog. We get a shot of Mipha talking to Link, and it appears to be the same events which were written down in her diary entry. We actually brought this up in our story predictions video. In the trailer, Mipha says,
"Well, Link, you've grown since I last saw you."
And the entry in question says the following. Link came to visit the domain. It feels like forever since he was here last. He no longer resembles the child I first met. He is now an accomplished knight and keeper of the sword that seals the darkness. This takes place right before Zelda asks Mipha to pilot Varuta, but as said before, that's subject to change. There is a part of this quote which might also contradict Age of Calamity, specifically the part with Link having the Master Sword, and we'll get into that later. I also want to briefly address the voice acting. The characters sound slightly different, but I'm pretty sure they all have the same voice actors as Breath of the Wild. Mipha is also seen fighting some bokoblins, and her champion cloth is not present. What might happen in this game is we start at Hyrule Castle with the whole introduction and tutorial, Rome tells Zelda to seek out the pilots, and each champion accepts the request while doing one mission before the ceremony. That would explain the lack of champion outfits. In fact, a good chunk of this game appears to be before the events of the Great Calamity. And we can all rejoice because baby Sidon is in the house. Since we know Mipha's fate, it makes this moment even more heartbreaking. Here we can see 5 different characters. The 3 important ones are Zelda, Mipha, and King Dorephan. One minor detail which is a bit strange is how the king has his scar. This was obtained through a scuffle with a guardian which Dorephan picked up and threw into the ravine when it attacked the domain. Not really a big deal, just something worth noting. If I had to guess, I'd say this is the moment in Mipha's diary where she gets her father's blessing to pilot Varuta. Next, we see Daruk with Zelda, Impa, Link, and the Egg Guardian. This further backs up the idea that Rome was ordering them to seek out the champions in the shot of the first trailer, as all people here are present there. The structures in the background tell us this is somewhere close to Goron City. At first I was questioning why none of them are burning up, but then I remembered that fire elixirs exist. That's probably the best explanation for this. Daruk also hints at one of the game's missions. He mentions that Rudania is currently in a difficult spot, and the sudden change in shots to Death Mountain implies that the Divine Beast is inside the volcano. And I mean, we do see this in Breath of the Wild after Link defeats Vah Rudania. What follows is a shot of Death Mountain with Daruk battling Fire Lizalfos. 2 things are important here. 1. This most likely comes from one of the game's missions where we'll have to trek up the mountain to Rudania. And 2. Now Daruk is seen using the runes. Again, either the slate is passed on to him, or we have multiple Shika slates. At this point, it doesn't really matter though, because more abilities means more variety in gameplay, which should be seen as a good thing. It looks like he's going from a stasis attack right into a punch, so these runes might be parts of some attack combos. There's a quick shot of an Igneo Talus, perhaps one of the bosses of this mission, and we see the Goron champion use his ability where the Bridge of Elden lay, at the entrance of Death Mountain. You'll notice that after each champion is shown off, we see the dark fog slowly consume their part of the tapestry. Again, a tragic reminder of what's to come. We're now taken to the Gerudo Wasteland with Urbose, where she agrees to pilot the Divine Beast. We can see part of Naboris' leg in the shot. This might take place right after her 4th entry, as she ends off with, "I believe Zelda will be here soon to receive my official answer." And we're all reminded just how powerful Urbose is with her ability Urbose's Fury. The following shot is both amazing and kind of strange. Impa, Urbose, and Link are on the defense with some soldiers in the background in what appears to be Gerudo Town given the stonework and statue. But that's the thing. Link is in Gerudo Town. Even as the champion and wielder of the Master Sword, the town is still strict with their no-men law, as seen in the entries where Link had to dress up as a woman to gain access in search of Zelda. Given their location, combined with this shot from the first trailer, it could be the Yiga clan invading the town. I wonder if we'll see Master Koga. It would be amazing to see him fight when he's at his prime. We have another shot of the desert. It looks like this might be from a first-person shot of someone on the ground, perhaps Zelda. Urbose does follow this shot by saying,
"I hope you're not hurt, little bird."
Little Bird is the nickname Zelda's mother had given to her. 3 soldiers are rushing to the scene, perhaps after seeing the princess on the ground, and both the Gerudo champion and Link appear to be focusing on something. I have a feeling they might be protecting Zelda from whatever threat came her way. And finally, the trailer cuts to Revali at what appears to be the flight range. He states,
"Rito Village is my home. While I'm here, you won't be getting any closer."
He's either talking to a group of monsters or more likely Link. There's a chance these events take place right before what appears to be the duel between the two in the first trailer. From the background, it looks like this also was from the flight range. The following battle against the Ice Lizalfos likely takes place in Hebra, where Revali is using what looks to be his champion's ability but on steroids, creating a whirlwind which traps the enemies as he unleashes his attack. Revali also mentions the following.
"I suppose the time has finally come to reveal Vah Meadow's divine power!"
The fact he's at Vah Meadow, combined with this line, means this might be taking place during the battle against Ganon and his guardians. Remember what I said about the Master Sword? So the next shot has Link, Zelda, and the 4 champions at the Korok Forest with the Deku Tree, and while we don't get a close look, it's highly likely that Link has just obtained the Master Sword. And this is where the contradictions to lore happen, as creating a champion mentions the hero obtaining it at around 12 or 13 years of age. It's still possible that he already had the blade and they simply went to the forest to speak to the Deku Tree, but my money's on Link obtaining the sword in the middle of the story. There's a quick shot of the champions conversing in what appears to be the same place Zelda was crying, the place we saw in one of the DLC memories. This takes place after the inauguration ceremony, since Link and the champions have their champion cloth. Now, in the next bit we see 3 champions with the hero and princess walking in what might be the Lost Woods given the color of the fog. This might be right after their conversation with the Deku Tree, and while Urbose isn't present, she might just be behind Daruk. This shot has the group without their blue garb, so the order of events might be the champions being selected, Link gets the Master Sword, then the ceremony. Now we get to see Link with both the Master Sword and Hylian Shield. At first I was thinking this was right after Memory 16, but the champions have yet to get their blue outfits. Revali seems to be missing in the shot. The steep cliff in the background makes me think this is taking place at the castle, since that area is filled with different cliffs and elevations. And it looks like Zelda is giving orders to either the champions or troops, proving that she is, without a doubt, best girl. Don't at me. I don't care nothing about Yunimpa. The surrounding trees and pillars in the background tell us this is most likely the Sacred Ground ruins, and her ceremonial outfit hints at this being at the time of the Calamity Ganon attack, where Link and Zelda made their way to the castle. And then we get what's my favorite shot of the trailer. Well, aside from the Citadel burning. Urbose is seen atop of Naburus, overlooking the fight in which an army of Guardians and Skywatchers are attacking, with explosions covering the battlefield. Naburus' lights are blue, so she's likely in position and readying to fire against Calamity Ganon, right before he uses his malice to overtake the Mechanical Titans. We get a shot of the Wasteland Tower in the background, so this battle is taking place somewhere close by. We can see monster camps, specifically the Skull Rocks and wooden platforms, along with what might be barracks or keeps. Both the rain and vegetation tell us this is away from the desert. Also, the fact that it's raining might time this event close to that of the last memories where Zelda and Link are running away. The next shot is of a Guardian emerging from the pillar, and we know this because you can see a bit of the column in the background. This might be the very first Guardian that comes out of any of the pillars, followed up by the rest. The next shot is reused from the first trailer, and Zelda is seen looking at the slate with Impa before the ground starts shaking, which most likely leads into this shot of the first trailer. The camera now zooms out to see the castle engulfed in malice, with a lone beam firing directly into the sky. What I find suspicious is this small flash of light at the same time as the laser shoots into the sky. The timing of this implies that both are connected, but the angle of the laser doesn't intersect with the glow. I have no idea what this means. Perhaps it's kind of like a lens flare effect? And finally, the Calamity Ganon figure on the tapestry animates and gives one final roar, as the Kingdom of Hyrule comes to a catastrophic end. But before we finish this analysis, there was one other detail I noticed, one which many didn't appear to catch, and it's a complete game changer for Age of Calamity. This lone water bottle. It might look harmless at first, but little did everyone know that this was the answer to the whole puzzle. Because what comes out of the water in Breath of the Wild? Farosh. What is Farosh's name derived from? Faron. And that means that this water bottle confirms that Age of Calamity's answer comes from one thing. The Zonai tribe. Thank you for watching this analysis.